The political crisis in Guinea has still not been resolved, despite an African Union and regional body ECOWAS decision to suspend the country's membership after a military coup exactly 7 days ago. Army generals led an operation to seize power from President Alpha Condé last week and scrap the country's constitution. Condé was Guinea's first democratically elected president in 2010, but lost favor with many when he amended the country's constitution to allow himself to run for a third term last October. Dr. David Zounmenou is a senior research consultant at the Institute for Security Studies and joins us live now from Pretoria to talk about developments in Pretoria. Doctor, grateful for your time. So you've got regional body ECOWAS saying we are suspending the membership of Guinea. The African Union then followed with the same announcement, yet the military powers now are still not budging. Is that surprising?
Good morning to Bikele. Good morning to the viewers. No, it's not at all surprising. I think African Union and the regional body ECOWAS are acting on the principles enshrined in the various documents, the ECOWAS Protocol and the African Union Constitutive Act that have set the frame to root out a military coup. But we know that that declaration in principle does not really make any impact on the behavior of the coup leaders, who continue to define the framework for a transition that Colonel Doumbouya, the one who led the coup, wanted to lead.
And it's not the first time that bodies on the continent, be it ECOWAS, be it SADC, be it the AU itself, have said to a country, we will suspend your membership because there's been an unlawful takeover of power and it hasn't worked. Why then is that always the first port of call when it's clearly not effective?
Look, I think there are two things that we need to have in mind. One is the depleting authority of the regional bodies due to the fact that there is a little expression of concerns or action against African leaders who blatantly violate their own constitutions, abuse human rights, weaken state institutions just to hang on to power. And no one has this moral authority to dictate the behavior to others. That simply sabotage or undermine the impressive normative framework that the African Union or ECOWAS has put in place. Second is the distance between what people, the citizens, feel about the way their country is managed and how it is perceived from Abuja or from Addis Ababa. And there is a lot to be done to bring back African Union or regional organization close to the aspiration of the people, even though in the various protocols you can read that those institutions, those organizations, were created to defend people's interests. The reality went to a different direction, and that's what African Union and ECOWAS need to correct.
You rightfully point to a lack of credibility, and I want to focus on West Africa specifically. In the last, I think, 13 months or so, Guinea is the third country in the region to go through such a takeover of power. First was Mali, and then Chad also affected. Why is the region so unstable?
Look, the region has been unstable for the past, I would say, 10 years, although it has been a region that recorded an impressive number of electoral processes and turnover in terms of power alternation. But, you know, elections are no longer enough to establish a strong democracy. The building of democracy or democratic construction needs strong institutions. And any leader who came to power, those who were elected, if the elections were credible at all, managed simply to weaken the institutions so that they can be strong. For them, to be powerful means you need to have a weak civil society, you need to send to jail a journalist or to weaken the press, the power. You need to make sure the parliament is under your control. And those initiatives simply exclude the majority of the citizens from the exercise of power. And this is what is creating the problem of the return of the military and the political scene. The second element that I would like to point out is also the way the situation in Mali and Chad was managed will definitely have an impact on what we're going to see in Guinea, simply because ECOWAS or African Union, on particular, taking into consideration what's happening on the ground, compromise their own principles, and that is going to affect the upcoming situation in West Africa. And not to say that Guinea is not the only country that is affected by government deficits, leaders' misbehavior. Other countries in the region, including Cote d'Ivoire and Benin, are experiencing very challenging and tense political situations, and we hope that it doesn't really go to the direction of Chad and Guinea.
What about the French then? Let's speak about the French, the former colonial power, still a very influential country when you look at the running of some of the governments in West Africa, also as far as investment. Do you expect the French to intervene at some point?
No, in terms of a direct intervention to restore the so-called democratic order is not on the French agenda. What the French government is trying to do, given the fact that the relation between Guinea and France have always been very problematic, and even so with Alpha Condé, when he stood for the third term, the appreciation from the French President Emmanuel Macron was not really to applaud him or to support him. So the relationship deteriorated. Yet, French government has expressed its willingness to help Guinea return to democratic order. And this call for the revision of the constitution and a genuine commitment of political and social actors to a democratic environment that can help Guinea to harness, exploit, and make use of abundant natural resources that the country is endowed with.
Dr. David Zounmenou, Senior Research Consultant with the Institute for Security Studies. Grateful for your time this afternoon, Doctor.
Thank you for having me.